This video is sponsored by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform to easily and efficiently build and manage your own website. I did a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokémon White 2 as a member of Team Plasma. In a Nuzlocke, if a Pokémon faints, it's dead forever, and I can only catch one Pokémon used by Team Plasma Grunts per route. Fortunately, there's quite a few of them. The rest of the rules for this playthrough are shown here and in the description down below. I'll be playing on Challenge Mode, but since Challenge Mode is fundamentally broken, I'll be using the level caps from Normal Mode. I joined Team Plasma in my early 20s. Back then, I was angry and disaffected. I looked at the world and hated what I saw. So when Team Plasma came a-knockin', promising a better and brighter future, I was all too eager to sign up. Our leader, N, the king of Team Plasma, truly wanted to make a difference, and the first few years as a Team Plasma Grunt were amazing. As with so many of my fellow Grunts, I finally felt like I had a purpose. But then, we found out that N was a puppet, and Getsus, the true team leader of Team Plasma, was using him and all of us to take over the world. He didn't care at all about making the world a better place, he just wanted to rule it. Fortunately, N and some other little fella were able to stop him and save the world, but it meant that Team Plasma was over. Most of us were arrested, our Pokémon were taken away from us, and we were sentenced to prison for our crimes against humanity. Flash forward a few years and I'm out of prison for good behavior, but now I'm back to living with my mom. A prison of its own kind. My bedroom doesn't even have a door. It's what I deserve though. I hurt so many people as a member of Team Plasma, and it was all for nothing. It felt like my life was over. But then, my mom comes in with an opportunity to make things right, a chance to start my life over and go on a proper Pokémon adventure. Out there in the world, challenging the Pokémon League, I might be able to actually do some good. I may not be able to change what I've already done, but I am the one thing in life I can control, so it's time to amend for the sins of my past. Which means I need to go to Route 19 and catch my very first Pokémon, a Purloin. I had one of these guys back in the day. Certainly not the best Pokémon that Team Plasma Grunts are allowed to use, but also not the worst. Actually, now that I think about it, Purloin is the worst. But I have faith that Lafayette will pull through for us. In Flockhessie Ranch, I also catch a Patrat named Eliza. Still not a great Pokemon, but at least she gets 50 base power stab tackles. That's gonna have to be enough to get us through the first gym battle against Charon, who has a deceptively stacked team. He does like to spend turns going for workup boosts, so with a little bit of luck, we might be able to win this one. Call it karma, but there's no luck to be had. Eliza is outsped by Charon's own Patrat, and our tackles aren't a two-shot. The result is Eliza tragically falling in battle and leaving me with just Lafayette. He's able to come in and finish off Patrat, gaining a level in the process, but Lillipup comes in next, and despite getting off a Growl and a Sand Attack, my kitten is no match for Charon's puppy. Lillipup actually ends up spending a ton of turns going for workup, so had Lafayette not missed two 80% accurate Fury Swipes in a row, and maybe gotten more than 2 hits on the Fury Swipes that he does connect with, we might have actually been able to clutch this one out. But instead, attempt 1 is stopped dead in its tracks. My faith in Lafayette was misplaced. After a few more attempts, with new versions of Lafayette and Eliza each time, I was starting to think that this was all hopeless, and that maybe my dreams of changing the world were just wishful thinking. I was just an ex-Plasma Grunt with a checkered past. If I couldn't even beat Charon, how could I expect to go out there and make a difference? I thought about giving up and going back home to live out the rest of my days in isolated shame. But just as I'm about to throw in the towel, on attempt 4, something magical happens. Eliza is able to take out Charon's Patrat with 2 tackles without taking any damage whatsoever. With a Sand Attack and a Leer on Charon's Lillipup, she's also able to take him out without taking any damage. Charon just wasted far too many turns with workup, Eliza saw her opportunity, and she wasn't about to throw away her shot. Suddenly, it's looking like we're gonna win this battle without any casualties at all. Eliza outspeeds Charon's Pidove, though he is bulky enough to survive 2 hits. I go for a bite on the second turn, hoping for a flinch, though it doesn't matter since Pidove uses a priority quick attack. And now, with one more attack, Eliza's gonna win this battle. But then, tragedy strikes. A critical hit quick attack kills sweet Eliza. Lafayette comes in to net us our furthest attempt yet, but it's a bittersweet victory without Eliza to celebrate with us. Nevertheless, we have to move on, so move on we shall. In the dark grass of Route 20, I can catch a Venipede who I named Burr. He'll be pretty useful into this next gym leader Roxy, who specializes in poison types, as will the Coughing I catch in the Verbank complex. Mulligan has great physical defense, so I'm anticipating that he'll be a great wall into Roxy's Pokemon. But I anticipated wrong. Mulligan is indeed a fantastic physical wall, but his special defense is so bad that even with a poison type resistance, Venoshock does too much damage. And though we can retaliate with neutral returns, Roxy's Pokemon are bulky enough that it just doesn't do enough. I really didn't have a great plan for this fight, and as a wise woman once said, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So fail we did. Which means it's back to square one. Back to the purgatory that is fighting Charon over and over again. Or so I thought. Eliza the Patrat's performance in Attempt 4 was good, but it's nothing compared to Philip the Patrat's performance in Attempt 5. He starts things off hot with a critical hit tackle for the one-shot in the mirror match. Lillipup comes in, so we nail the pup with a classic Sand Attack and Leer combo. Then this absolute madmouse gets another critical hit against Lillipup. He's an absolute animal, literally and figuratively. Pidov's last, and after firing off a Leer, he does retaliate with a critical hit of his own, leaving Philip with just 5 HP. So after Philip uses one last Leer, it's off to Lafayette to close out the game. It takes a few turns since we once again get a 2-hit Fury Swipes, causing Charon to heal, but with 2 scratches and no additional crits from Pidov, we manage to win the fight against Charon completely deathless. Sadly, the celebration is short-lived, for even though Philip made it past the fight against Charon this time, a faulty Pokeball means that the Venipede we try to catch on Route 20 breaks free and kills Philip with a nasty rollout. Philip had so much left to give, a million things he hadn't done. It'd be easy to hate this Venipede for what he did, but Philip would have wanted us to forgive him. He was a good man. So, in Philip's honor, with forgiveness, I welcome Burr the Venipede onto the team. After once again catching Mulligan the Coughing in the Verbank complex, it's time for a rematch against Roxy, this time with an actual plan. Burr has an adamant nature, so he's actually able to do pretty solid damage into Roxy's Coughing with return, while taking relatively minimal damage from Venoshock's. Whirlipede comes out second, so Burr nails her with a Screech before taking a super effective rollout, and recovering back to over 50% with an Oranberry. We can use Protect to stop Whirlipede's rollout, so it's moderately safe to stay in and go for another Screech, which misses. Okay, well now it's time to risk a crit. After resetting Whirlipede's rollout once more with a Protect, our third Screech connects, and Burr survives the rollout. So now it's off to Mulligan. Rollout doesn't do much, and thanks to the defense drops, Return does a massive chunk of damage. So Mulligan's able to finish off Roxy's ace before her rollouts get too powerful. That just leaves Grimer, but Mulligan takes care of her with just a few more returns, winning us the second gym badge. Rise up, Attempt 5 is the run. Before leaving Verbank City, we have a run-in with the new Team Plasma. It seems like they've kinda just dropped the pretense of being good guys and are straight up stealing other people's Pokemon. So we follow them into Castelia City. In Castelia, you can be a new man. For me, that means helping to bring down my former team. There's nothing that quite encapsulates Team Plasma's fall from grace, like driving them into the disgusting sewers of Castelia City. Seeing what Team Plasma's become makes me sick. These guys are pathetic, and the fact that they're still following Ghetsis now means that they've never cared about liberating Pokemon or fighting for social reform. In them, I saw my past self, and it felt good beating the crap out of them. This was personal. For now, Team Plasma is taken care of, so I can get a few more encounters. From Castelia Park, Castelia Sewers, and Route 4, I catch Angelica, Eliza, and Peggy. The Skylar sisters are all pretty solid additions to the team, though unfortunately Angelica the Rattata has the ability Runaway instead of Guts, so Rat Power Sweeps may be a bit hard to come by. Eliza is able to fully evolve into Crobat before the next level cap, which is great, and Peggy the Sandile has Moxie, which can be used to set up some nasty sweeps once she evolves. The minus speed nature is a bit of a bummer, but a little bit of sass never hurt anyone. Which reminds me, it's time for everyone's favorite part of the video, the part where I ask you to subscribe to the channel because it helps me out a lot. Poppy will actually stab me with a tiny corgi-sized knife if the channel doesn't keep growing, so please save her from going down the path of violence. Anyways, with our full team of 6, Berg and his bug types are simply no match. Mulligan with a held Eviolite kills Berg's lead Dwebble, his Carablast, and also does really nasty damage to his Leaf Annie with a super effective Sludge. Eliza's able to come in and finish him off with a Wing Attack, and then also take care of Berg's Shelmet, finally winning us an easy gym badge. On our way to Nimbasa City, we take a detour to the Desert Resort to catch a young, scrappy, and hungry Scraggy. This is another Plasma Grunt staple and a pretty fantastic Pokemon, especially when he evolves. Team Plasma certainly made some questionable decisions, like the whole lying to everyone about their plans to enslave the world, but it is nice that they let their grunts use a pretty wide range of Pokemon. So welcome to the team, Hamilton. History has its eyes on you, no pressure. On Route 5, I get another encounter, a Trubbish named Maria, but she'll be spending most of her life in the box. The problem is that she's just not a very good Pokemon. And how do you solve a problem like Maria? Wait, that's the wrong musical. Elisa's next, but since a good number of my Pokemon can learn Dig, this is another fairly easy fight. Angelica can take out Elisa's lead Emolga with a Silk Scarf boosted return. That's the one Pokemon immune to ground-type moves out of the way. Flaffy is second and goes down to a critical hit Dig, but not without leaving a nasty scar in the form of a static paralysis. So as Joltik comes out third, she now outspeeds Angelica and nails her with a Volt Switch. This brings in Zebstrika, who gets hit with a very hard return, though a Citrus Berry brings her to around 50%. A switch to Peggy causes Angelica to get hit by a Pursuit as she switches, though thankfully no crit means that she survives. With Peggy in for free and holding an Eviolite, it's now perfectly safe to stay in and take Zebstrika out with a Dig. So Elisa's just left with her tiny Joltik, who's no match for Burr, who has now fully evolved into a mighty Scolipede. I love this Pokemon, he's just so freaking cool. Though because Joltik ends up paralyzing us, and Elisa heals, and then we get fully paralyzed, I do have to switch back to Peggy to avoid being killed by a potential critical hit Volt Switch. So it's the Sassy Gator that gets the final kill, and wins us the 4th gym badge. Our next stop is Driftvale City, and it's here where we run into my old friend Brian, another ex-Plasma Grunt. I haven't seen Brian since the last Team Plasma holiday party, but it seems that he too has recognized that Team Plasma was no good, though it doesn't look like he's quite ready to fully embrace civilian life. Personally, I hated wearing those uniforms, couldn't get out of them fast enough. But it does make me happy to see that there are others like me. Those who realize their mistakes and are ready to make amends. Hell, even Rude admits to being on the wrong side of history. It's not too often that you see an old white guy owning up to their past actions. He even acknowledges that just apologizing isn't enough, but that you can't move forward until you do. I wish more people thought that way. Then maybe, just maybe, things could actually change and there'd be less pain in the world. Team Plasma had to be stopped, and now with a few more ex-Plasma members willing to take a stand, we just might be able to do it. For now though, we have to set our sights on the 5th gym leader, Clay. His Excadrill is always a massive obstacle for any trainer aspiring to take on the Pokemon League, and I'm no different. But fortunately I can catch one last team member before that, a Fungus named Lorenz. He can't evolve before the level cap, but Giga Drain should help out against Clay's ground types. As the battle begins, Clay leads with Krokorok. He immediately goes on the offensive with a Crunch, but it doesn't do too much since Lorenz is holding an Eviolite. His Effect Spore also puts Krokorok to sleep. Pretty nice since a Giga Drain is just shy of the KO. With the Reptile taking a snooze, Lorenz is completely safe to put him down with another Giga Drain. That brings in Onix. He fires off a Rock Slide, but then a Giga Drain brings him down to Sturdy. This causes Clay to heal, but I actually have Lorenz go for a Feint Attack. We don't want Onix going for Explosion, which is more likely when he's at lower health. Plus this way we're also able to recover back to full HP after a second Rock Slide. So third is Sandslash, but Lorenz is simply unstoppable. Sandslash spends a turn going for Hone Claws as a Giga Drain leaves him with a Sliver. Not ideal since now a Crush Claw on the following turn does a lot more damage and manages to lower our defense. And since we don't recover much HP from that second Giga Drain, Lorenz is now at risk to a critical hit from Excadrill. But I think I gotta risk it. A high critical hit ratio Slash comes out, but Lorenz survives. From here, I switch to Burr, expecting that he can survive a Slash and then outspeed and kill Excadrill with a Dig. But Excadrill goes for Bulldoze on the switch, meaning we no longer outspeed and will be easily taken out by a Rock Slide. So now we need to play a bit riskier. I switch to Peggy on a resisted Rock Slide. Unfortunately, I don't think Peggy is faster than Excadrill, so I gotta switch again, this time to Angelica. In a stroke of luck though, she comes in on a Bulldoze, which misses thanks to our held Air Balloon. Now we can outspeed and nail Excadrill with a super effective Dig. We come up just shy of the knockout though, so I hold my breath as a metal claw comes out. But Angelica holds. Her air balloon may be gone, but it doesn't matter. One last dig finishes off Excadrill and wins us a hard-fought battle against the 5th gym leader. From here, it's time for another confrontation with Team Plasma, who seem to have gotten a pirate ship since I was part of the team. Not gonna lie, it's pretty cool. But after a few easy fights on the pirate ship, the Shadow Triad yeets me, my rival George, and Charon off of it. I always hated the Shadow Triad. Real weirdos, those three. One of them tried to get me into crypto a few years ago. Anyways, with Team Plasma having disappeared, for now, it's off to Mistralton City. On Route 6, I catch a Seviper named Jefferson. This is a really cool Pokemon, but there's a reason not too many Plasma Grunts use one. With so many other poison types at our disposal, it's hard to find a niche on the team for Jefferson, but at least he'll be joining the party for the fight against Skyla, which looks a little iffy. Many of my best Pokemon don't have great matchups into Skyla's flying types, so I decide to bring the B squad and just play super aggressively. Skyla leads with Swoobat, and I lead with Angelica. It's unclear whether we outspeed here, but fortunately I can use a priority Sucker Punch to smack the bat for a clean one-shot. That brings in Swanna next. She outspeeds, which I wasn't expecting at all. This means that Swanna has a plus speed nature, but fortunately her Surf doesn't crit, and Angelica survives to nail the waterfowl with a normal gem boosted return. If Angelica had gone down there, we would have been in a ton of trouble. My Pokemon are all pretty weak to special attackers. Speaking of, Sigilyph is third, and despite taking super effective damage, without a Guts boost, Sucker Punch isn't enough for a one-shot, so I gotta switch to Lafayette. I was hoping that he'd come in on a Psychic, which we're immune to, but since it's an Air Cutter, now we're in trouble. My only play is to hit Sigilyph with a Snarl, and hope that Lafayette can survive the resulting -1 attack. It's gonna be close, but when has Lafayette ever let me down before? And the Mad Titan lives. He is inevitable. With an assurance, Sigilyph falls, and Skyla's left with just her Skarmory. This is a nuisance of a Pokemon to take out since we have no easy way to damage her, but fortunately Mulligan can burn her with Will-O-Wisp and then we can stall her out. Eliza's the one that ends up getting the kill with an Acrobatics, winning us the battle completely deathless. Look around at how lucky we are to be alive right now. In the last 3 gym fights, Angelica has put in a ton of work, coming in clutch by dodging critical hits on 3 separate occasions. She's one hardworking rat, and her reliability is second to none. Except for the sponsor of this video, Squarespace. Squarespace is an online platform that helps you reliably build and manage your own website, whether that's an online store for your business or a personal blog for your thoughts. Their all-in-one platform is the easiest way to reliably and quickly design professional, polished, and reliable websites, especially when utilizing their reliable customizable templates. For example, I use Squarespace to launch my very own website, poppyhg.com, the home of dozens of curated pictures of my corgi puppy Poppy. You can always rely on PoppyHG to put a smile on your face. Squarespace also has a ton of other really useful and reliable features, like reliable analytic information about the traffic of your website, the ability to reliably add and reliably play embedded videos directly on your website, and Squarespace member areas, which can be used to reliably connect with your audience and create reliable exclusive members-only content. So if you're looking for a reliable way to start a website for your business or hobby, then you should absolutely check out squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch your website, you can rely on my custom link to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thanks so much to the always reliable Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Now, let's get back to the challenge. After the battle, Skyla flies me, Bianca, and Professor Juniper over to Lentimas Town, where we have a long stretch before the next major battle. In Reversal Mountain, I catch another team member, a Skorupi, who I accidentally also named Jefferson. But unlike Snake Jefferson, Scorpion Jefferson will be seeing a lot of use. His battle armor ability is pretty useful, especially after he evolves into Drapion. As I explore the western half of Unova, we come across some familiar faces. My rival George battles me in Undula Town, and we have a run-in with Zinzalin in Lacunosa Town, but neither of those fights are too difficult. On Route 9, I welcome another member to the team, the Pride of Mount Vernon, Washington the Pawniard. He's useless for now, so into the box he goes, but we'll pick him up later. Now it's time for the fight against Drayden for the 7th gym badge. This gym is always pretty tough. Even the fights against the gym trainers can be really dangerous if you aren't prepared for them. Fortunately, we've got a solid plan for Daddy Drayden. Scorpion Jefferson is able to take out his Drudagon with a few Ice Fangs. Since we can't guarantee a one-shot on Flygon, Mulligan comes in and burns him with a Will-O-Wisp, and then a few turns later, he goes down. Axorus is always scary, but by burning him with another Will-O-Wisp, we can negate the Dragon Dance boosts and take him down before things get out of control. Altaria is Drayden's final Pokemon, but Hamilton, who has now fully evolved into a Scrafty, can bring him into the red with a few Ice Punches, despite the defense boost from Cotton Guard. Our Rapscallion Reptile ends up getting put to sleep by a Sing twice, so it's actually Eliza who comes in to finish off Altaria with a Cross Poison, winning us the 7th gym badge. But there's not much time to rejoice, because Team Plasma is here with their giant pirate ship that apparently can also fly and also acts like a massive freeze gun. Honestly, I think Team Plasma got a little lost in the sauce with this one. There's just like a few too many things going on at one time. Just pick a lane. Unfortunately, the attack on Opelucid City results in the Shadow Triad nabbing the DNA splicers. These guys always make me so uncomfortable. Like, I remember back in the day, you'd just be chilling in the break room talking about something normal, and then poof, one of them pops up out of nowhere asking you to join their MLM. The worst thing about them though is that they always only ever brought a single bag of chips to every single Plasma potluck. Like, all 3 of them shared a single bag of chips. They didn't even bring dip. Like, say what you will about Getsis, but even he would bring homemade chili. Anyways, with the DNA splicers in their possession, Team Plasma's plans are coming together quickly, and we need to respond fast. But evidently, I still have time to face off against the 8th gym leader Marlin. Against his lead Wailord, I lead with Hamilton. He's able to set up a sunny day and then knock out Wailord with a few Thunder Punches. Mantine is second, and since Hamilton doesn't outspeed, Jefferson comes in and takes him out with a Thunder Fang. Caracosta is third, so it's off to good old Lafayette. Caracosta goes for Shell Smash on the first turn, but the Ancient Turtle is so slow that even with the speed boost, Lafayette still outspeeds. We can use a Fake Out to break his Sturdy, and then follow up with a 4-time super effective Seed Bomb for the kill. That just leaves Jellicent, but he's walled by Lorenz the Amoonguss. I waited to evolve him until right before the level cap so that he could learn Spore at level 50. This, along with Giga Drain, would be more than enough to take out the Ghostly Jelly, but his Cursed Body ends up activating, disabling Giga Drain. So it's Lafayette who comes in on a resisted Shadow Ball, and then finishes off Jellicent with a Night Slash, winning us the final gym badge. Which means that it's time to put a stop to Team Plasma's nonsense. In order to get to their flying pirate ship, I need a Pokemon that can learn Surf. So in the Great Chasm, I catch a Sneasel. This is technically a Pokemon that Plasma Grunts are allowed to use, but very few of us do. I think most people are afraid of stepping on Zinzalin's toes since he's a bit sensitive. We'll just be using Ensemble for Surf and as an XP sync though. As I make my way through the Plasma Frygate, I'm ashamed to see a lot of familiar faces. People I used to call friends. I thought they wanted to change the world, but clearly they just wanted to peddle fear and steal Pokemon. It didn't matter that I helped organize Kathy's baby shower, or that I gave a speech at Mike and Lisa's vow renewal ceremony. They stayed in Team Plasma even after everything happened, so they weren't my friends anymore, and I had to stop them. Eventually, I make my way to the helm of the ship, where Colress is waiting. He thinks that it's some big reveal that he's working with Team Plasma, but the second I met this guy, I knew he was in their pocket. His drivel about unlocking the potential of Pokemon is the type of stuff I would have fallen for in my early 20s, but now, in my late 20s, when my back hurts all the time and every day I wake up more tired than the next, I can see right through it. Colress is just another monster, masking his cruel intentions behind pseudo-intellectualism. It's gonna feel pretty good taking him down a peg. He leads with an Eviolite Magneton, and I lead with Hamilton. A Drain Punch does good damage, but Magneton retaliates with a Thunder Wave. This lets them outspeed on the next turn and fire off a nasty Volt Switch, which brings in Magnezone. Sadly, we get fully paralyzed, though our Shed Skin ability does cure the paralysis at the end of the turn. So we now outspeed and fire off another Drain Punch as Magnezone fires off a second Thunder Wave. I'm worried that Magnezone is going to explode here, so I switch to Jefferson, who can't be crit. Unfortunately, Colress just heals, so even though we get off a Bulldoze, Jefferson now gets paralyzed as well. Then a discharge does massive damage before we can finish off Magnezone. Kling Klang comes in next, so it's off to Hamilton as they set up a shift gear. There's a lot of Pokemon that like setting up in this game. Hamilton's Shed Skin activates again, so at least we're not dealing with full paralysis, though that doesn't make a second shift gear from Kling Klang any less scary. This Thing is now threatening with +2 Giga Impact. Fortunately, that appears to be just shy of the KO on Hamilton, who is quite bulky. So, we stay in as Kling Klang fires off a Giga Impact. But it's a critical hit, and Hamilton is killed. Peggy's free to come in and kill Kling Klang on their recharge turn, and then thanks to the Moxie boost, she's free to sweep through the rest of Chorus's team. But boy does it feel bad to lose Hamilton here. I mean, with a name like that, he was destined for death, but not like this. Not like this. With Chorus defeated, it's time to face off against Ghetsis. You know, looking at him now, I'm a bit embarrassed that I ever believed that Team Plasma was anything more than a fascist cult. Like, literally everything about Ghetsis is evil. He's got a red monocle. He might as well have just been walking around with a sign that says, "I'm secretly evil" in Comic Sans. I probably should have done a little bit more critical thinking with that one. But now I have the chance to finally right those wrongs. It's just me and Ghetsis. Oh, and N's here too. Good to see ya, N. I'm assuming you're here to like help me out and not just sit there and do nothing. No? You are just gonna sit there and do nothing? Cool. Okay, well, the first thing to do is defeat Kyurem White. So at long last, here comes the General. Washington has a steel gem so that we can hopefully get the one-shot with a super effective Iron Head. If we don't, I'm gonna have a very crispy Bisharp on my hands since Kyurem White knows Fusion Flare. Thankfully, Iron Head does indeed get the one-shot, and the deformed dragon is swiftly defeated. But now we gotta deal with Ghetsis. N's not helping with that one either, I guess. Ghetsis leads with a Kofagrigus, who is very conveniently walled by Washington. All he can do is fire off quad-resisted Shadow Balls before eventually going down to a few Night Slashes. That brings Seismitoad in next, so I switch to Mulligan on either an Earthquake or a Drain Punch. Mulligan should bait Muddy Water, granting me a safe-ish switch to Lorenz, though he does get the accuracy drop. This could be bad if we miss, but Seismitoad just goes for Muddy Water again for some reason, and then we connect with a Giga Drain, so problem solved. Next is Electros, and it's off to Jefferson on a Flamethrower. We can stay in here and nail Electros with a Crunch, as we're guaranteed to survive a Thunderbolt since we can't be crit. Next, it's a switch to Peggy, who's immune to a second Thunderbolt. And from here, it's a freaking Peggy sweep. Crunch kills Electros and gets us a Moxie boost. Earthquake then kills Drapion and Toxicroak, such that Peggy is now at +3 attack when Hydreigon comes in. And that's just enough boost for a single return to one-shot Ghetsis' 6th and final Pokemon, winning us the battle and putting an end to Team Plasma once and for all. It feels good to at least, in part, make amends for my past mistakes. I can rest well knowing that Team Plasma is gone and they won't be coming back. But why stop now? We're so close to the Pokemon League, so let's see if we've got what it takes, yeah? Before the Elite Four, I have to fight my rival George one last time, and this is a tricky fight, especially without Hamilton to take care of his Bouffalon. I lead with Jefferson into his Unpheasant and nail the ugly bird with a Crunch before he U-turns for some chip and brings in George's problematic Bison. Without thinking too much about it, I switch to Mulligan expecting an Earthquake, but he just goes for Head Charge, which does stupid damage to my most defensively bulky Pokemon. Because of Stab and the 20% boost from Reckless, Head Charge and Earthquake have overlapping damage rolls. Jefferson would have survived a single hit, so it was a big misplay to not stay in and go for a bit of damage, but now I'm in a bit of trouble. Mulligan won't survive another hit here, and no one who can survive a hit has a way to take out Bouffalon before he fires off another one. So we need a sacrifice for a safe switch, and that burden falls to the Ensemble. He comes in, and then just as quickly, he goes down. Sorry buddy, thanks for the sack. That gives me a safe switch into Eliza, and with the recoil from murdering Ensemble, Bouffalon is low enough that a Flying Gem boosted Acrobatics can finish him off. So Simisear is next, and even though an Acrobatics doesn't get the one-shot, Eliza survives a non-critical hit Flamethrower. Not much I can really do about dodging that crit there, we have exactly 0 Fire-type resistances. A second Acrobatics finishes off Simisear, bringing Unpheasant back in. so I bring my lead back in as well, who shrugs off a facade. A cross poison doesn't get the one-shot, but that's a blessing because Unpheasant hits Jefferson with a swagger, boosting our attack. A Personberry restores our confusion, so Jefferson is now free to demolish Unpheasant with 2 cross poisons, even after George heals. And then Superior comes in and falls to a single cross poison as well, so that's our rival defeated, meaning that we've finally arrived at the Pokemon League. Here's our final team, leveled up to the level cap of 58. It's a pretty stacked team. Team Plasma really gives their grunts a lot of very strong Pokemon to play with. But the Unova Elite Four, especially on challenge mode, can be really tough. We've got our work cut out for us, but I know that we've got what it takes. If we can beat the mighty Getsis, we can beat these chumps too. Let's do it. First up is Caitlyn, and to keep things brief, it's an easy Peggy sweep. A Dark Gem is used to ensure a one-hit kill with Crunch on her first Pokemon, which ends up being Reuniclus since Caitlyn switches out Musharna. But after that, with the Moxie boosts, Peggy one-shots every single one of her 4 other Pokemon, winning us the battle. From here, things do get a little trickier though. I go with Grimsley next. He leads with Liepard and I lead with Eliza. A normal gem-boosted Fake-Out does decent damage, but because of Eliza's inner focus ability, she doesn't get flinched, letting her fire off an X-Scissor. It's not quite enough for the kill, and because Liepard has the ability on Burden, she can now outspeed and fire off a Night Slash, which crits, before going down to a second X-Scissor. Absol comes in next, so now's a good time to use our Flying Gem boosted Acrobatics for a clean one-shot. Scrafty is third and isn't guaranteed to go down to a single Acrobatics, so instead we gotta use Roost to get back some HP. Without Scrafty getting any crits, we're safe to get back to nearly full HP before firing off an Acrobatics. That does actually end up getting a one-shot. Well, whatever. Crocodile is fourth, so we head off to Burr on a Dragon Claw. Then an X-Scissor is enough for the one-shot. That just leaves Grimsley with his Bisharp, and even though we have superpower here, I can't stay in since this thing is holding a Quick Claw. Fortunately, Washington walls his twin quite well. And on the next turn, we can get a clean one-shot with a low kick, winning us the battle. That means that third is Marshall. He leads with Throw and I lead with Lorenz. Throw is way too weak to do meaningful damage to Lorenz, and we can put him to sleep with Spore. This gives me a safe switch into Jefferson, who proceeds to set up 2 layers of Toxic Spikes. After that, it's back to Lorenz. Throw is woken up at this point, so I try to put him back to sleep, but a Circle Throw actually activates Effect Spore, poisoning Throw before I can get off the Spore. This is annoying since Throw has Guts, but even with the boost to his attack, he's not doing that much damage. And Marshall eventually uses a full restore, which lets me put him back to sleep with another Spore. This might seem like a lot of gymnastics when I could just kill him, but the goal here is to get Throw in a position where he's asleep and at fairly low HP. Once he's in that position, I can switch to Eliza and kill him with a Cross Poison. Eliza now baits in Conkeldurr, and since we killed Throw with a Cross Poison instead of a Flying type move, we're now free to get a clean one-shot with a Flying Gem boosted Acrobatics. With Conkeldurr down, Lucario comes in next, threatening with a Psychic. So now it's off to Peggy, who's immune, and can get a clean one-shot on Lucario with Earthquake. The Moxie boost is nice, but we don't actually outspeed Mienshao, who comes in next, so we gotta switch back to Eliza. She shrugs off a high jump kick and then gets a clean one-shot with another Acrobatics. Last is Sock, so I use Roost to drop our Flying type as Sock goes for a Rock Slide, which just ends up missing. With the poison from Toxic Spikes breaking Sock sturdy, Eliza can now freely finish him off with one last Acrobatics, winning us the battle. Last for the Elite Four is Chantel, usually the hardest of the Elite Four members in challenge mode thanks to her Choice Scarf Chandelure. Like Getsis, she leads with a Kofagrigus, so I lead with Washington. 2 Night Slashes take out the Coffin, as Washington again just takes a bit of damage from a Shadow Ball. Golurk comes in next, so I switch to Lorenz on a Brick Break. A lucky Effect Spore paralyzes Golurk, though it would have been nice to be able to put him to sleep with Spore on the next turn. Instead, I set up a Rain Dance to better deal with Chandelure. An Earthquake does massive damage, but on the next turn we get most of that back with a critical hit Giga Drain. Lorenz is kind of an RNG monster. The fearsome Chandelure comes in next, but with the Rain up she's gonna go for Psychic instead of Fire Blast, which grants me a safe switch into Peggy. Unfortunately, the AI is smart enough to switch, so Driftblim comes in on a Crunch meant for Chandelure. Since that gets the one-shot, Chandelure comes back in, now threatening with Energy Ball. So it's off to Burr, who shrugs off the quad-resisted grass-type attack. Looks like Chandelure's staying in now, so 2 bulldozes are enough to finish off the lighting fixture. That just leaves Bayonet, but she can't do anything to Jefferson, who comes in and kills the Poltergeist with a crunch. Just like that, Chantel's defeated, and we've bested the Elite Four. But the champion Iris is tough. Real tough. And we're gonna need to play this smart so that her Haxorus doesn't get out of control. Just one last battle, and we'll become champions of the Pokemon League. Iris kicks things off with a pretty intimidating Hydreigon. She's far scarier than Ghetsis' Hydreigon, since this one has incredible coverage with a range of hard-hitting special moves. My only option is to lead with Burr, who can one-shot Hydreigon with a Bug Gem-boosted X-Scissor. Right away, that's a major threat taken care of. But Burr's not done yet. Aggron comes in next, and we get a clean one-shot with a superpower before she can even move. So just like that, we're up 6-4. Archeops comes in third, so I switch to Washington, who still takes a massive chunk of damage from a resisted Stone Edge. Fortunately, he's miraculously able to outspeed and kill the Feathered Dino with an Iron Head. Now it's 6-3. Druddigon's next though, and it's time for a classic final fight sacrifice. Washington's been an essential member of the team in the late game, but we need him to get off some damage and give Peggy a free switch. So, for one last time, Washington nails Druddigon with an Iron Head, and then... well, they don't call it Focus Miss for nothing, I guess. But the thing is, we still need a safe switch to Peggy. If Washington kills Druddigon here, Haxorus will come in next, and I can't risk her setting up a Dragon Dance. She might just go for Earthquake, but I've seen Haxorus go for Dragon Dance even when she sees a kill with Earthquake, so it's not worth the risk. I have to switch Washington out here since he only knows attacking moves. I try to switch him back in for the sack, but Washington actually survives an outrage. He just doesn't want to go down. So ultimately, it has to be Eliza who makes the sacrifice. I guess it's fitting that she's off to join her husband and son and ensemble in the great beyond. Rest well, Eliza. With her sister's valiant sacrifice, Peggy finally comes in, and with an Earthquake, she kills Druddigon, getting that sweet, sweet Moxie boost. Lapra comes in 5th, which I wasn't exactly expecting. I was so focused on Haxorus that I kind of forgot that Lapra would obviously come in first thanks to super effective Blizzard. Fortunately, Peggy knows Superpower, which is enough to get the one-shot on Iris's Icy Leviathan. That means that fittingly, Haxorus is last. She has a Focus Sash, but with Peggy already safely in, we can use Fling to hit Haxorus with a Razor Fang. This breaks Haxorus's Focus Sash, and causes a guaranteed flinch, which lets Peggy finish off Haxorus on the next turn with a massive outrage. That wins us not just the battle, but the entire run. Not too bad for a former Team Plasma Grunt, huh? Thanks so much for tuning in to another Evil Team Nuzlocke. I've now done this challenge with Team Rocket and Team Plasma, so let me know in the comments which team you want to see me tackle next. And if you enjoyed watching this video, it'd be great if you could like the video and subscribe to the channel. Or don't, I don't know, but I do know that you should follow me on Twitter and Twitch to keep up with streams of my future challenges. You should also subscribe to my highlights channel to get highlights of the challenge I'm currently streaming before it's cut down to a video on the main channel. And you should consider subscribing to my Patreon, which is the best way to directly support the channel and comes with bonus content and early video access. The links to everything are in the description below. Stay tuned for more Nuzlocke videos, and until then, remember to always, always, always play around the critical hit.